How do Tottenham Hotspur go about replacing Cristian Romero? Now, that is a problem that I hope doesn't become a reality later on this summer, but it is one that definitely could. If reports are believed to be true, it is that Romero had a great relationship with Ange Postecoglou, and a lot of his future was quite intertwined with Ange's, and if Ange stayed, then it could lead to him signing a new contract or staying for next season, and if he left, it could mean that he leaves with him, and obviously Ange Postecoglou has now left the football club, and I do think it's a situation that we have to prepare for, and the Tottenham board will be preparing for this summer if we get a bid that is good enough to sell. Now, I personally want to keep Romero. I think he's such a huge asset to this football club. I still believe that he's actually our best player. In my opinion, availability has halted his progress really and has harmed him over the course of his Tottenham career, of course. But when he is fit, when he's available, when he's playing his best football, I still believe him to be our best player. And the qualities that we would lose if we were to lose him would be huge and would be so detrimental. And that is why I wanted to do a sort of video analysing what the situation would be if we were to lose him. But like I said, I'd only want to accept bids. If I was Daniel Levy, I would not be looking to accept a bid under £70 million for Romero this summer. We need to get great value out of him if we are to sell him at this point. He's 26 years old. He's still got 2 years left on his contract. This is a winner. This is a leader. Somebody who has that winning mentality, leadership qualities, and is an exceptional centre-half. Like I said, when he is fit and available, when he is fit. And yeah, that's what I wanted to do in this video. Look at how we go about replacing him. There's two sort of different ways that I think we go about replacing him in two different situations. And I'm going to look at what we do if he stays as well and how that sort of changes with his impact if he leaves. So let's get into that right now. Now, there's two sides really to Cristian Romero's game, as there is with every centre-half, but two sides that massively influence the way that Tottenham play football. And the first one is obviously off the ball. Defensively, he's a strong box defender. He's so aggressive with his defending, really likes to step up into the midfield, play front-footed, win balls back high at the pitch. Sort of, he is that last line of the press almost, and he is somebody who sort of takes it on himself to do that at times. It looks like he's quite a free spirit sometimes defensively, and that can lead to people questioning him sometimes and say that he's rash, etc., etc. Leads to him giving away bad fouls higher up the pitch sometimes. But he's also a great box defender, as was demonstrated and exampled against Manchester United in that Europa League final. He can come out and defend these wide channels. He's so versatile in his defensive strengths, which I think is something that would be so exciting for Thomas Frank walking through the door and having Cristian Romero there. Absolutely 100%. And the second side, the side that I really wanted to focus on today, because I believe that it's much more realistic to get a defender who could replace and replicate those defensive qualities. Maybe not the aggressive nature up the pitch, but that box defending quality or coming out to the wide channels defensively. You're much more likely to get a better fit in that way rather than what we lose in possession and replacing Romero in possession in this Tottenham Hotspur team, because he is so pivotal and is the largest part of our build-up. And that has been so evident when he's not been available for us this season. Look at how our build-up falls apart with him in the team and with him out of the team, especially when you look at the early stages of this season compared to those middle stages where he wasn't here. And I've sort of drawn a lot of squiggly lines on here because these, for me, I haven't looked at any stats. I haven't really done any research on this. I've watched Romero throughout his entire Tottenham Hotspur career in person, and for me, this is where his strengths lie in terms of those progressive passing numbers, how versatile he is, and the balls that he loves to play when he does have the ball at his feet. Now, as we all know, I feel like some people get frustrated with Romero sometimes because he takes a long time on the ball. Romero has the ball at his feet a lot when it looks like he's sort of walking forward, assessing his options and not moving the ball quickly. But then he'll just snap a pass and he'll fire a pass out of nowhere. He'll be sort of building that picture in his mind. I think that's what's so impressive about him on the ball. He'll sort of wander up to this sort of position in the pitch, or if we're pinning teams in, he'll be even further up. And he'll look to play these sort of passes. Now, obviously, there's the ones where he can fire it into Lucas Bergwijn, Rodrigo Bentancur, when we're building it out from the back. Those sort of more simple passes that a lot of centre-halves are tasked with in the Premier League in the modern day. But there's also these ones where he almost sort of steps into the midfielder's space and he loves to fire one into James Maddison in this sort of left-sided position for Maddison to then turn and then play the ball out to Heung-min Son or whatever, and it launches a quick attack. In two passes, you've got into that final third of the pitch. He also loves this straight ball into Dominic Solanke. Dominic Solanke knows exactly what Romero likes to do on the ball, and he's constantly looking to fight with his defenders, free himself up a little bit of space in this position for Romero to fire a ball into him, and it's pretty much always perfect. 99% of the time, Romero will find Solanke. It'll be a good way to pass. He'll sort of fire it into him, trust Solanke's touch. And that can be so useful with somebody like Dominic Solanke, how well he holds up the ball up to then bring our wide men into play, to then link up with James Maddison in this little area here. And I think that's something that you saw when Ange Postecoglou's team was playing their best football this season. That sort of thing you saw quite often when Romero, Maddison and Solanke were all in the team. How much they were in the team at the same time, I don't actually know. I couldn't really tell you the stats, to be honest with you, because obviously all of them suffered big injury problems at times this season. He also loves this clip ball down the line to Brennan Johnson or Wilson Odobert. He also loves to sort of fire the ball into Pedro Porro to move forward too. He's somebody who's so versatile, like I said, in his passing range. He can spray the ball out to Destiny Udogie on the other side, and he's such a key part of our build-up that if you take him out of there and you replace him with a Kevin Danso, who I don't think is bad on the ball, but this is my point. You can get a lot of centre-halves who are good on the ball. You can't get somebody who's Romero on the ball. You just can't. It's going to be impossible for Tottenham Hotspur to find that. Could you buy a young talent who could potentially develop into something like what Romero is on the ball right now? Yes, potentially, but there's not going to be a ready-made Cristian Romero level footballer that is going to come into Tottenham Hotspur this summer. We simply don't have the finances or the pull to go out there and make that happen. I wish we did. I wish we were a serious football club like that, but unfortunately that won't be the situation that we're in this summer. And we have found that even when Romero's been injured and it's been Van der Ven and Danso or Van der Ven and Gray or even Van der Ven and Davies at times, we lose so much because Mickey Van der Ven, he loves carrying the ball forward. He's more of a ball carrier in his ball progression. He's got a decent passing range, it's okay, but he's not somebody who's going to put his foot on the ball and fire these passes in with, accuracy and really be a large part of our build-up. He's somebody that can do other things, like he'll progress the ball up and maybe play a nice little 5-yard pass to Destiny Udogie, running down this left-hand side. Like, he's still so effective in the build-up, Van der Ven, but in very different ways, and they actually complement each other quite well in build-up, I would say. And, I think that is the key for me. What you are going to lose in possession with Romero versus out of possession with Romero. I think the in-possession stuff is a lot more key. And I think if Cristian Romero was to stay at Tottenham Hotspur, the positions that I would be targeting in this midfield would be, you can maybe look at the likes of João Paulinho, you can maybe look at a Leslie Okajukwe from Chelsea, obviously was on loan at Southampton last season, a player in there who, not necessarily their skill set is to be that sort of deep line playmaker and who will receive the ball and have a massively high pass volume, a bit similar to somebody like a Jorginho. I know it's not that sexy, I know that it's not people's favourite profile of player, but he is somebody who has been so important to teams over the years, and I do feel like Romero is that guy for Tottenham Hotspur, a little bit almost coming out from defence into midfield, and Bergwijn and Bentancur aren't tasked as much with being as key in the build-up when Romero is on the pitch, whereas if you took him out, then they all of a sudden would be, and the midfielder's job would be so much more important. You might have to look at a different profile. But like I said, with Romero, my top choice would probably be a João Paulinho, a different midfielder with a different profile who can come into this team, not necessarily have a huge impact in the build-up, and can kind of let Romero come in here and take his space and not be too involved. Is somebody who that excels out of possession and will win you the ball back and then play simple passes to the players around him that are better than him in that aspect and will come in and out of the team. They won't play 38 games, will be such a useful part of a squad. Whereas if you lose Romero, that's when I think the problem becomes so much bigger than that in terms of replacing him at centre-half and what profile of midfielder you sign. So we're going to look at that now. Now, this is what we're here for. What should Tottenham be doing if Romero is to leave this summer? If we get £70-80 million for Cristian Romero from Atletico Madrid and he leaves, how should we be looking to replace him? Now, I don't think it should change too much in terms of if Romero leaves, what profile should we be looking to make? I think it will be obviously a first choice, and I do believe it's been reported that Tottenham Hotspur will look to spend quite serious money in that position and buy a properly ready-made first choice centre-half in that area. Whether that is going after somebody like a Mark Gahey, a Jared Branthwaite, who yes is a left-sided defender but can also play on the right-hand side, a Dion Monde from Sporting. That first choice centre-half to come in and start next season, maybe even rotate with a Kevin Danso, who I quite like Kevin Danso. I believe in him, and I do think that he could play a more prominent role in the first team next season. I do think Thomas Frank will like him quite a lot as well, and he is somebody who is good both in and out of possession. I think that we've seen those qualities so far at Tottenham Hotspur, but obviously we would still need to make that first choice signing, I do believe. This is where it gets most interesting for me, is in the midfield. If you were to lose a Cristian Romero and say a Mark Gahey comes in, or a Jared Branthwaite, or a Dion Monde, you would be losing out, regardless of if these players can still do that to an extent, you would be losing out massively in that build-up. You would be losing the Romero quality, and you would need a different kind of midfielder to come into that midfield, somebody who could dictate the play a little bit more, somebody who was a tempo setter for Tottenham, and somebody who was more of a high-volume passer. It would also lead to questions about the other midfielder that pairs him. Would you be able to pair that midfielder with a Bergwijn, or would you need to go a Bentancur next to him or something like that? Somebody I do think Bergvall could definitely merge into that, and I do think a midfield of, for example, a Stiller and a Bergvall with Maddison in front of them could still definitely work, especially in possession. But it would take one of these profiles, definitely, for Tottenham Hotspur to replace fully what we lose with Cristian Romero in the build-up. A Ravella from Lazio, Angelo Stiller from Stuttgart, who's had a brilliant season, Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace as the more lofty, ambitious kind of signing, who looks like he cost in excess of 90, 100 million pounds this summer and is basically completely off the table. But that sort of profile, if we were being fully ambitious this summer, is what you would need to bring in, because you need somebody, like I said, to be that high volume passer in here, to take the ball off the centre half, to still be firing those passes into James Maddison, into a Dominic Solanke, to be dictating the tempo of the build-up, so that in possession Tottenham Hotspur could still be a fluid side and sort of still have those same build-up patterns that you might lose out on with a Romero. Because if you were to say, for example, to go with a Mark Gahey or a Branthwaite and then a João Paulinho in that midfield, all of a sudden you're looking there and you're thinking, because Bergvall's not going to be that guy probably, Van der Ven's not going to be that guy, and 2 new signings aren't going to be that guy. Who's that high volume passer? Who's somebody who settles Tottenham down on the ball and sort of finds those passes or keeps things ticking and puts their foot on the ball and is a calming influence for Spurs? I don't think, like, Paulinho wouldn't be that. I don't think Gahey would necessarily be that. Like I said, despite the fact that he does have qualities in possession, you'd be losing out on a lot there, on that Cristian Romero profile, on somebody who settles down our build-up play a lot more. And that is why it sort of really depends on what we do with Romero to what midfield signing we should make. And that is another point. This all has to happen early on. If we're going to sell Romero, it can't be something that drags on all summer and we sell him for £70 million at the end of August, as the Premier League season has already started and we're sort of panicking and trying to scrape together a potential midfield signing. We end up with a profile that is not going to fully suit us and not replace what we lose with Cristian Romero. That is why, if Romero goes, it has to be in July. You have to go after a Ravella, after an Angelo Stiller, before other clubs get to these players if they potentially leave, and you have to get the correct profiles in through the door. You might even still go with, for example, Ravella, who looks to be available for about 30 to 35 million, potentially 40 million this summer, and a João Paulinho alongside him to complement him if you sell somebody like a Bissouma. But I do feel like with those Cristian Romero replacements, you would have enough of that sort of profile. Like, you've got enough ball progression there with a Mark Gahey, you've got enough there with a Van der Ven, a Bergvall, and then you've got the excellence of one of these three in there to sort of all blend together to make Tottenham Hotspur's build up under Thomas Frank a nice smooth transition. I really, really do believe that. And Cristian Romero is not replaceable. Like I said, there's not somebody who you can get in. There's not a centre half on the market unless you're willing to spend silly amounts of money, or you had a pool like a Real Madrid's pool, for example. Like, you look at somebody like, I don't know, a William Saliba, or you look at a younger defender like somebody like a Pacho, if you're looking at them coming through. Like, you're not going to get the on the ball qualities mixed with the defensive qualities as well. You're just simply not going to find that. And that's why I find it kind of amazing when people have this sneery attitude towards Cristian Romero at Tottenham and don't really understand and realise the importance that he has for us and the unique profile that we have in Cristian Romero. Not many sides have a player where, when he is fully fit, can do as much defensively and offensively as well for us as Cristian Romero. I mean, that's before you even talk about how much of a threat he is in the opposition's box. Defensive set pieces as well. The times where he can go up front for us when we're chasing a game. Like, he's just such an incredible footballer, and I wish if he does leave this summer, I'm going to be so sad that we didn't really ever have a full season of Cristian Romero being fully fit and firing on all cylinders. It's going to be a shame because he's had injury issues in all of the different seasons that we've had him here. But in terms of the other elements of the defence, if we were to lose Cristian Romero, I think the other stuff would really stay the same. I think the most important would be getting that replacement in the midfield player to sort of complement him. I've seen some people potentially suggest that you could go with a real ball player at right centre-half because of the qualities that Mickey van der Ven has. And, you know, you could get a midfielder like a Paulinho in there and really focus on that off-the-ball replacement for Cristian Romero in a position like this, somebody who's just excellent on the ball. I'm not too sure I love that, to be honest. With Pedro Porro already on this side, I do feel like if you were to get a defender who's not good at covering the wide channels and doesn't cover themselves in glory defensively, then you would be leaving yourselves really vulnerable and really exposed on that right-hand side as well, especially with Brennan Johnson and Wilson Odobert as your options on that right-hand side, who, let's be completely honest, don't love tracking back and aren't the best at it. I do feel like you definitely have to go with a blend in that position, a nice blend, like somebody like a Mark Gahey who can do both sides to a very good standard, but on an absolutely elite standard. And then, like I said, get that midfield partner to complement them and get somebody like, I'd love a Nicolas Ravella from Lazio. I'd love an Angelo Stiller from Stuttgart if Romero was to go. I think that would be a brilliant step in the right direction for Tottenham Hotspur in terms of sensibly and logically replacing a player and what you're losing with them, and making the squad better as a whole. And I think that if these would probably be my top two choices. I mean, obviously Adam Wharton would be, but it's not going to happen. So I'm going to put him out of there. I think I'm going to go Stiller, because Stiller's got that set piece quality as well, something that we've missed at times. I feel like Gahey and Stiller, and then maybe even you chuck in a Paulinho as well. Those would be my top choices in those positions to replace the influence that Cristian Romero has in that Tottenham Hotspur team. A deep-lying, progressive passer, somebody who has very high volume of passing numbers, an elite passer in Angelo Stiller, or somebody who is a great passer and has the potential to be elite like Stiller, and Mark Gahey, somebody who is an excellent defender and is good on the ball, and somebody who can replace to a certain extent what Cristian Romero gives you, and then a little bit extra with Angelo Stiller. Like I said, potentially adding a João Paulinho there, another ball winner. Leslie Okachukwu, somebody who I loved at Southampton last season, a younger profile who could potentially come in and be a nice option in our midfield too. But let me know how you would think it would be best to replace Cristian Romero. I'll be interested to hear in the comments what you think would be the best way to go about it, who your number one choices would be in these positions. But that for me is what I would like if he does go. Obviously, in an ideal world, Cristian Romero stays, then you maybe go for a slightly different profile of midfielder. Like I said, it would probably be then Romero in this position and Paulinho is my number one in that extra midfield position, and you can still have Bentancur playing in there as well. But that's what I like for now. Like I said, let me know in the comments what you think, who your top choices are. If you are obviously new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be pumping out lots of Tottenham Hotspur related content. On Friday evening, I've got a video coming with Ben Bowman, as you all know, and Kish as well. Kish from Lily White Labs, two great content creators who we're going to be doing a little tier list, I think, on all of the transfer rumours that have been linked to Tottenham Hotspur this summer, which ones we like, which ones we don't like. So make sure you're turning notifications on so you don't miss that video. And yeah, like and subscribe, and nice one for watching.